Hello friends, today we are broadcasting from New York City. I am on vacation with the family, which sparked this video. Specifically, what are some of the vacation provisions that should be in your parenting plan when you get a divorce? Welcome back to the divorce broadcast. My name is Manny Segarra, coming to you from New York City. So when it comes to the travel provisions of a divorce agreement, the first thing that we have to try to tackle is when is the travel going to be allowed? This may include specifying time periods or dates that children can be allowed to travel. A lot of parents don't like the travel provisions to interfere with the minor children attending school. So oftentimes they break it down into different parts. For example, they like to follow either the long weekends or the school break periods. Spring break is the first time period that usually comes up. A lot of parents think about either dividing that in half, or they like to alternate it every other year so that one parent gets the entire spring break one year and then the other parent gets the spring break the next year. The next time period is the summer. Summer break will run usually about 10 to 12 weeks per year for the children. Some parents like to limit it to either 1 week or 2 weeks during the summer. Some parents take half a summer and then give the other parent half a summer. So the vacation provisions have to contemplate when the parents are going to take their summer vacation. The next time period may be during Thanksgiving. I know in Miami-Dade County, they started changing it so that children get the entire week of Thanksgiving off. It used to be when I had my son, you would just get that Wednesday to the following Monday. So now that Thanksgiving is an entire week, which is what often occurs in different jurisdictions throughout the country, parents have to think about how they are going to divide the Thanksgiving break. I suggest that it be alternating. A lot of times, whoever gets Thanksgiving will not get Christmas, so they can take advantage and perhaps visit family out of town. The next time period, as I just mentioned, is winter break. Winter break is usually about 2 weeks long. Oftentimes they carve out some time for each parent, either during some of the holidays, whether it be Hanukkah or Christmas, but that allows for the second half of the winter break oftentimes to allow the parent to have unfettered travels. The next issue that we need to cover is whether or not the parents will agree to the child having a passport. Sometimes this is an area of contention. I like to have in our parenting agreements a provision that allows for the minor child to have a valid United States passport. And not only is the passport something that has to be written into the agreement, but you also have to account for who is going to hold it. If the parents can't agree who that parent is, then they will simply alternate who it is that's holding onto that passport. Now we're going to get into the good stuff, which is what are some of the situations in which there may be limitations on the children traveling outside of the country. Before we get into that specific area though, I think it's important to explain the Hague Convention on the Civil Aspects of International Child Abduction. This is a treaty that was created in 1980, and it provides for a worldwide mechanism for returning children who have been wrongfully removed from their country of habitual residence as a violation of custody rights. The convention has been signed by over 100 countries, including the United States, and the convention sets out a framework for cooperation between these countries in the event of an international child abduction. Under the Hague Convention, the parent whose child has been wrongfully removed from their country of habitual residence can apply for the child's return to that country. So one of the limitations that we need to keep in mind is if a parent chooses to travel to a country that is not a signatory of the Hague Convention. The second limitation would be to perhaps avoid travel to countries who have high levels of political instability, violence, or other risks that could endanger the safety and well-being of children. Perhaps they're known to have significant human rights violations. The third group may be countries who are engaged in an ongoing conflict or traveling to countries who are currently at war. Also, countries that do not have any diplomatic relations with the United States. That would also be another group of countries that I would suggest that you limit travel to. In the event that they don't have diplomatic ties to the United States, it may be more difficult for the child to be returned. And finally, traveling to countries that have certain security alerts in the State Department's travel advisory list. This list is a great resource for the people to look at to see what the risk risk of travel is to a particular country, and we're going to list that website in this video here so that you will have a handy reference to where you can look to see what the different levels of alerts are. Now, assuming that the travel is agreed to either by consent of the party or court order, there are a couple other considerations that the parties should consider. Obviously, starting with who is going to pay for the cost of travel. We always put in our agreements that the person who is traveling will always pay for all of the costs associated with the travel. In addition to that, we got to make sure that there are provisions that the child, especially when they're smaller, will always be accompanied either by the parent who is traveling or an approved chaperones. In addition to this, transportation is a big one. Not only the cost of transportation, but you must consider whether or not the child will be allowed to travel alone. Let's say that the child is traveling to Europe. Are we going to agree that the child will fly on a plane by themselves, or will the child be required to travel with the parent who is traveling? And finally, there should be provisions that even though the child is traveling to a different country, the daily communication provisions where the other parent gets either a phone call or a video call with the child should always be maintained and in place so that that other parent can always speak with the child even if they're on vacation. All right, before I wrap up this video and try to enjoy the rest of the family vacation that I've got going on here in New York City, I would be remiss if I did not offer a pro tip to all of you who are either celebrities or whose jobs require them to travel out of state or out of the country periodically or consistently while they work. And that would be, number one, to make sure that you contemplate that you will travel in your parenting plan so that everyone is on notice. I would have provisions that would perhaps allow the children to travel with you to work as long as it doesn't interfere with maybe their schooling or extracurricular activities if they're important, or their tutoring. But I would also have provisions in there that would allow for makeup time sharing in the event that you cannot take the children with you. In addition to this, it will make traveling a little bit easier for you if it was contemplated in your agreement. So let's say that you are a celebrity and it requires you to travel to Spain or England or Mexico all the time. Then if you put that in your agreement and you ask the opposing parent to allow you to travel to these countries, it may be a little bit easier for you in court. And speaking of celebrities, remember, it may not be a good idea for you to post where you are necessarily traveling with your children before you get there. Oftentimes, if the other parent is objecting to you traveling, they may say that there may be a security risk involved with you traveling, and it may require you to have to take security measures like not disclosing where you're staying. Maybe you might have to get a bodyguard. So you may want to avoid that and broadcasting where it is that you're traveling if you're someone of notoriety, so that you don't broadcast where your children are going to be staying. So that's a wrap on our vacation aspects of parenting plans in divorce. I hope that answered all of your questions regarding the notice requirements and what it is that your agreements should say regarding vacations. If you know anyone that has any questions about what language to put in their parenting plans regarding vacations and traveling out of the country or outside of the state that they currently live in, have them look us up at www.segarralawfirm.com. Although we're in New York City, our offices are located in Miami and Orlando, Florida. Se habla español. Please do us a favor and like this video, subscribe to the Divorce Broadcast, and share this video with anybody that you know that might be wanting to take a vacation with their kiddos and might have an issue with their particular parenting plan.